Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second episode of The Sexy Mystics. I'm Jess.
And I'm Jen. Thanks, you guys, for
And we
being
are,
here.
yeah, we're still figuring out our flow. This is perfect.
It's perfect.
Jen, how about you kick it off for us?
Okay. So one of the things that just came through whenever that just happened was it doesn't matter where you're at, just start. If the universe has put something on your heart to do something, just do it. Just start. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. Doesn't matter if it's perfectly edited or whatever. You're being asked to do something, and so just do it and see the rewards come back to you. So first of all, we appreciate everyone who tuned in to our very first episode, and we are looking forward to delivering value and just sharing our hearts basically in subsequent episodes of The Sexy Mystic. So thank you so much, you guys.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for your patience with our connection today. I am in the mountains in the Andes in Ecuador. So we are trying our best to show up and be present and also know that how things flow is how they flow. And the importance is that you get the message. So thank you for being with us today. One of our big topics that came through for both of us is to really express self-love and opening up the heart chakra. So that's what we plan on touching on this morning in our video today. And Jen, what is coming to you in your heart about self-love?
So one of the things that I was thinking about was, I hear a lot of people complain about like upper back pain in this area right here. And a lot of people who have back pain in that area means it's a spiritual meaning. So a lot of times we try to diagnose it and we go to chiropractors and we want to take care of it externally, but it's really a spiritual thing. And so we've got to take care of it on the spirit level. And one of the things whenever I was meditating this morning, I was thinking about success and self-love and how they're really intertwined in such a way that the self-love piece and the self-awareness, the self-enough piece is kind of like the gateway to everything that it is that we want in life, especially in terms of our interpersonal relationships with especially significant other and our family. So whenever I was like in my meditation this morning and thinking and downloading, that really came through because I was working with several people this weekend that was complaining about that back pain. And I was like identifying and not really judging, but just identifying their thoughts, words, and actions and the way that they approach the world, and seeing that there was this spiritual essence missing and that it was related to self-worth and self-love. And then when we love ourselves enough, then we can expand out and be loving to other people. And I feel like the planet is being asked to do that. And things are coming our way that are very painful if we aren't responding in love. And so I feel like this topic is a very important one because it's basically the wall that people are coming up against, and they don't realize that it's the wall, that the love piece is the wall, and that's what you have to dissolve. Like, it's not about breaking through the wall, it's about dissolving the wall, and love dissolves the wall. So just hand it over to you.
Love hearing that because when I was visiting with a friend and he tapped into the spot in my back that I mentioned. I was like, since I was 18, I have this spot. It's on my lower, on the left side, just below my shoulder blade, and it hurts. And I've gone to see therapists. I've done massages. I've done all these different kinds of things over the years because it's just always bothered me since I was 18. And I thought it was because I was a server. I was holding trays, so I thought maybe that kind of just jacked up my back. And so when I was with him and he pressed into it and he explained that spot is the gateway to your heart. and that there's a lot of pain there, a lot of pain that's I've been holding on to. And so part of what has been interesting, that kind of ties into that as well, Jen, for me, is that I've been on this path searching for a solution to this back problem that's been hurting. And then to find out that it's actually on an energetic level, that it's my body that's been holding on to this pain into my heart. And so when he pressed into that part of my back and opened and into that gateway, I went, well, I was laying down and I just started, my left hand, it just started pounding and pounding and pounding and pounding and pounding to that's been blocking my access to my heart and my love in such a bigger way. And so what I've really kind of understood the last few days, even about your heart and self-love, is that so much of it is taking self-responsibility, of being responsible for that pain rather than seeking out for others to comfort and soothe and heal that pain in us. That oftentimes we've tried to get it from our partners, we've tried to get it from outside sources, we've tried to get it through outside behaviors, if it's eating, shopping, sex, all kinds of behaviors that we've been seeking to ease that pain. But the only way I'm learning to heal that pain is to get through it and to allow it to come up. So there's this honoring of, feeling that pain, knowing that it's there and that there is a way to let it through and let it out, because we're not meant to be in bodies of pain. We are meant to feel love and nourishment and just juiciness in every single cell of our body. And that is the self-love, is that willingness to go there and understanding that the only way to heal is from within. So that's kind of that's what's coming up for me as you were sharing that, Jen.
Yeah, it's so true too, because and it's not about taking a judgment on yourself either, because a lot of people, when they're out of self-love, and I know this is true for me, so you guys who are listening, Jess and I have both been on the journey to this. Like, we've both done the work, we've both invested, and it's both of us have really experienced a lot of pain through the process of coming to it, because you're searching for answers. And that's the thing. I think I wanted answers right away, and until I flipped the switch and I really saw life as a journey and as an experience and as an adventure, kind of like a treasure hunt, or what's one of those games where you get one clue and then you're led to the next clue, with a scavenger hunt. So to me, life is kind of like a scavenger hunt, where we land on something and we get this amazing clue and we think we found it and we work through that, and then we're led to another clue that we work through, and then we're led to another clue. And whenever you turn life into a game, then it becomes much more fun to play it. Becomes much more fun to be here, instead of always like I know for myself, I was on this journey of healing. Like, I just got to get to the healing, and I was just like on this like massive road to just got to get healing. And then once I'm healed, then I can go out and change the world. Then I can go out and make money. Then I can go out and do this. And then I can go out and do that. And it doesn't work that way. It really works as a journey where we have to relish and love every single aspect of it and every single bit of the process. And so in my own process of healing that spot on my back, I feel that spot is healed. But there's like layers still peeling away around the self-love. And so it's interesting to see things come up, to challenge it, and to say, this is the way you used to think. How are you going to see this differently now? So I don't know, Jess, if you want to kind of banter on that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it comes down to choice, right? And the thing is that so many of the choices we make oftentimes stem from this unconsciousness that we don't even realize, that as a child we had unmet needs, for acceptance, for love, for safety, for acceptance, that we so desperately, desperately needed from our parents, and not receiving it felt like a fear of death. And so we really created these deep desires, and we all have unmet needs. All of us do. There's no way that our parents could have possibly provided in every single moment everything that we needed. It just is not humanly possible. So, and then that transitions, you know, as we get older, and then we start jonesing, you know, we start looking for other things. And so for me, it's like what I'm learning is that it's creating new choices and creating new patterns and new behaviors, and that takes time. Like Jen said, there isn't like you get the clue, you have the transformation, the epiphany, and you're like, woohoo, like my life is healed, it's solved, it's complete, you know, da da da, all these amazing things. But it's like I choose, and owning that. And so a couple of nights ago, I was in this sacred plant ceremony, and I recognize, like, I choose to be resistant to this right now. I own that I'm resistant. And what it gave me, instead of pushing it away or having judgment about it, suddenly I opened myself up, and I was able to go in and deepen into the experience. So for us, it goes back to that self-responsibility. I choose to learn new things. I choose, I own, I celebrate, I appreciate these parts of me that are seeking healing, that are in pain, and choosing that. And the thing to also that Jen mentioned, that I want to add to is you can't have the experience until you embody what that is that you want to be. So like Jen said, that, oh, I want to feel this, and then I can have da 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 da. And what I'm learning is that is about embodying it, embodying that self-love, embodying those new choices, and then it creates the experiences, either to challenge and test that, to make sure, okay, is this really who you are now, or who you choose to be, or the affirmation experience of, this is who I am, and then this new experience is coming in to affirm that new choice that I'm making. So that's what's coming up for me.
Yeah, it's so true because one of the things that I started saying to myself, it's a statement, it's not really a question, but I started to say, I'm willing to see this differently. And I was just constantly saying that. So my programs and all my stuff was coming up the exact same as it always had. And then I started to say, I'm willing to see this differently. I'm willing to learn from this. And whenever I started to say that, things began to show up differently for me. And I began to see it differently. And it was so fascinating because at first I didn't see it and recognize it as it's showing up differently. At first I saw it and as like it coming as a wall of resistance towards me. And I was like, wait, no, wait. I've been asking to see this differently. So that's why this is showing up differently. So it's been really, really a fascinating thing to see how things are showing up in my life differently, and how I'm like being willing to be open to seeing it differently and then working through it differently. So, you know, and whenever it comes to this whole like self-love part, I know for me, for the longest time, there was a tremendous amount of self-judgment. And with the self-judgment, then you also have all the other stuff that comes with that, like lack, scarcity, not enough, not worthy, all of these things come up. And it's really interesting to see our lives. And like Jess was saying, like we have to embody it first before we can actually experience it. And it seems counterintuitive because it seems like, no, I should experience it first, and then I can have faith, and then I can believe, and then I can embody it. But it doesn't work that way, guys. It works the complete opposite. It works when you embody it, when you know that you're worthy, then life shows up as worthy. When you know that you deserve to be paid for your great work in the world, then that's when the money shows up for you in that way of showing up for your great work. No matter what it is that we're doing, like even if it's a relationship with a significant other, you know, it's not about pinpointing a certain person, but it's about saying, this is what I want. This is what I know my soul is calling me towards. And embodying the person that you need to become first before that person shows up. So like I have an idea of the type of person that I want, but I'm like, what kind of a woman do I need to be in order for that person to recognize me? And it's not about my outer beauty. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with what is the vibration on the inside and what is my heart emanating? What is my essence saying and how am I showing up in the world? Because you can see plenty of attractive people who are single. There's a reason why, and it's because their essence and their inside is not matching with their outside and what they want. And so they're projecting something that isn't attractive to people. And therefore they're not like matching. So it's really about becoming on the inside who you want to be and who you need to be in order to have the things that you want on the outside.
Jen, it's like I totally resonate with everything that you said. And what was so funny when you were just saying that last bit, and let's just be clear, there are single people who want to be single. I get it. So, not to say every single person is desiring a partner, because we honor that. I mean, right now, I'm very happy being single. But I was talking to one of my girlfriends, and she's like, I know I've had about someone, and we all have, right? We've all been, I'm playing it cool. Like, I'm not really reaching out, but I'm still not getting anything. And it's like, because on an energetic level, that person still feels that need, they're still feeling like, even though you could say like, hey, what's up? But your energy goes out so much deeper and farther, and first it comes out before the communication does. So I was saying to her, I'm like, even if we're like being super chill, so relaxed, coming across energetically, we're still like, I want you so badly. I need to hear from you. Oh my gosh, I've been checking my phone 1,000 times. Why haven't you written me yet? And when you do write, I don't like the response because it's not what I wanted. And and others can feel that. I mean, I can feel it, when certain people ask questions. I'm like, no, this doesn't feel good to me. So then there's the, well, then what? If I'm acting cool as a cucumber, but energetically I'm like reaching out and and all that stuff, like, how can I show up? And what I've learned from my spiritual coach, Judith Onley, is acknowledge, shift, replace. So acknowledge that you're feeling that way. Acknowledge that you're jonesing, that you need something. You're desperate for the attention, the validation, the acknowledgement, the understanding that there's that part of you that needs that, and then shifting it into, is there, can I shift this into a place? Where is there a place in myself that can provide that for me? And that's through some work I'm doing in my coaching program right now. What is it that I can provide for myself in that? And then replacing it. And it's just creating that new neural pathway. And it's just going to take time and practice and repetition. That's how it is. But understanding you spent your whole life trying to get those things that weren't met from your parents, and you spent that. So it's going to take time and practice and self-love and commitment to creating those new pathways. But that's how we shift it, in my opinion. I'll find out. I'm trying it, so we'll see. But I know when I'm like seeking, I know that I've noticed when I seek it, and I'm like, okay, after pausing, coming back to myself. Okay, what can I provide for myself in that, rather than seeking it out from someone else? Because that someone else can never provide absolutely everything you need. Only you can, and the divine. But that's what I'm learning.
It's so true, Jess. And it's like, it's funny because this wasn't even meant to be talking about relationships. And now it's like, I mean, we just came on here today to allow the universe to speak through us. And it's like, what was coming through is this. So that's a great tip about how to shift your energy, because your energy does precede itself. So ladies, if you're like crushing on a guy and you're like wanting him to respond in a certain way, you want him to ask you out, you want him to pay attention to you, if you have that within, then he's going to sense it. And I don't care how cool you're trying to play it, he will 100% sense it. A lot of women think that men don't have intuition, but men absolutely have intuition. And they can sense when something's not right. They may not be able to articulate it and be able to put their finger on what they're feeling or sensing, but they're definitely sensing it. And if they're sensing it, they're pulling away. So it's just interesting too, because I know I went through a period of time, Jess and I were talking about this before we got on. I went through a period of time where I had a huge crush on a guy, and I had a crush on this guy for a long time. And, every once in a while I'll miss like our flirtatious interaction, and I'm like, gosh, man, I really kind of wish I had that right now because it was so fun. But like Jess was saying, it was all about validation. It was all about my own validation. This guy is flirting with me and I liked it and it was fun and he's fun, and he's adventurous and he's all these things that I like, but he's not 100% that. He's not 100% my guy, and I know that he's not, and I've known it ever since the beginning. So it's funny because a couple of years ago, we kind of ended things, our flirtatious relationship, and just kind of haven't had any contact with him in a couple of years. And it's kind of weird because he's coming back around. And now that he's coming back around, it's interesting to see the shifts that I've made within myself. So now I have a higher level of self-worth, a higher level of self-awareness. I know exactly what I want in a partner. And this guy is not going to be able to meet it because he's just not there. And it's not a judgment against him. It's not a judgment against anybody or anything. It's just he's not in the place that I need my partner to be. And now that I've become very clear on what I need in a partner and what I'm willing to have or not have, it's very interesting to see how the men that I used to be attracted to, I'm like, no, he's not it. And I'm able to not get hooked into that and into that needing attention, needing this awareness from this other person. So I now, like, it doesn't matter to me. I don't need it anymore. Now I find it from within. I do my own work, like Jess was saying, I go internal, and I really just connect with myself and connect with my higher power to go, this is all I need right now. I'm enough exactly how I am. If I ever attract a partner in, that's great. If I don't, that's great too. I know that I'm enough. I know that I'm worthy. I know that my needs are all met and are all met within. And when you are in that place, then it puts you in a position to not attract the wrong people in continuously. It also puts you in a position of not being desperate for a male attention or female attention. If you're a man watching this, it puts you in a position to not be desperate for that attention from that other person, because you're so solid in yourself, you're so self-aware, you're so much self-love that it's not necessary to get it from outside of you anymore. And then that's whenever the partner that's amazing can show up, because neither one of you are needing anything outside of the relationship. You are both meeting each other's needs separately. So when you come together, then your relationship can be built on something different than getting. It's like, like Tony Robbins calls it horse trading. So that's where you give to get. And whenever you come together as two whole people, then you're not giving to get, you are coming together as service to each other. We're really just here to serve each other's needs and help each other on our journeys. That to me is the most beautiful place to be in.
Jen brought up so many juicy, yummy things, and I love what you said. One of the biggest things, so in the conversation I had with my girlfriend about, not needing and changing the energy and all that stuff, it's, oftentimes when we're single, right, that's when we go to the gym. That's when we get really take care, a lot of self-care. We get the help, we do the therapies, we do all this stuff. We get really, really strong and solid in who we are and grounded and centered, like Jen said. And then we attract this person comes in, and we're like excited, and this is awesome. And we have this inner power that's so built up and so solid. And then we enter into this relationship. And what I've experienced is that there's this slow erosion of power. So like I started out being so in my power and, appreciating, but not being attached to their thoughts or feelings or acknowledgments or validations or whatever, thank you. Oh, I appreciate that. And then there's like this, I stopped doing my practices. I start kind of lessening into pouring into myself, and then I'm either pouring into them or I'm expecting them to pour into where I've left that cavity. And so then what happens for me is that then there's this shift of power that starts happening. And suddenly where I was so grounded, so centered, it starts going into this, what can they say and provide for me? And then there's that struggle again that happens. So it's an interesting place to be in, of how to stay centered and grounded like retraining ourselves so that we aren't attached to what others can provide for us. It's nice to have, it's not a need to have, but also not cutting it off either, right? So not saying, like, blocking myself from letting in the love and letting in the support, because also in my mind I'm like, oh man, then that means I'm going to give up my power, and then I'm going to start relying on them, and then I'm not going to be tending to myself. So there's these other things that are bubbling up as you were sharing that, Jen, of what my experience has been, and others too that I know of.
Yeah, it is. That's why coming to wholeness is so important, because not only is wholeness important for our own well-being, even in our career, wholeness is important, because if you're in any sort of career, especially if you're in an entrepreneurship type of career where you're here to impact the world and you're here to do something unconventional, so you start a business, or you're a part of a business, then you have to have complete wholeness, because everything leads back to your own self-worth and your ability to project that out. So like, if you are not feeling worthy enough for the success that you are seeking, then you'll either achieve it and self-sabotage it, or you won't achieve it at all. So like in my situation, I would just, it would always be right out of arm's length, and I would just be like striving and struggling and like going through those like lower vibrational emotions to try to get something. And it was just always like right there eluding me. And it wasn't until returning to wholeness, and I had to go through a lot of pain. You don't necessarily have to go through pain. I just had, my soul had to go through pain to really see it and to really transform the energy inside of me. Because one of the things that I always used to do is beat myself up and like think negatively or poorly of myself and compare myself to other people and where they were at on their journey. Like, look at this girl, she's only, X age and she's already a millionaire. Look at this girl, she has, the money, the business, the partner, all of these things that I want. She's like 10 years younger than me. So there was always like this comparison going on. And then the other thing was like, things would come to mind around, well, I bet that person doesn't have the same debt that I have. Or I bet that person makes, like all these thoughts. And so I had to get to a place where I was stripped of everything, basically. Like nothing was working. I was like as broke as I've ever been before in my entire life. And it was like, that was the moment where I had the opportunity I could either still be wallowing in my brokenness, I could still be wallowing in my stuckness around all of those programs and the things that I would say to myself. But in that moment, when I was at my bottom, like I was literally scraping bottom, you guys. And I mean, Jess knows this because she was with me through the whole thing and being my support. And I'm so appreciative of, like, it almost brings tears to my eyes, how much support she was for me during that time. But it was in that moment of like bottom, where I was scraping the bottom and I was at my lowest, and I was like I was facing every fear that I ever had in the face. And it was in that moment that I was like, you know what? I'm a badass. Like, I have done this, and this. And I just started naming things that I had done and accomplished in my life, and the risks that I had taken, and the way that I show up in all of these things. And I just started reminding myself of that daily. Like every single time I would have a negative thought come up in my mind, I'd be like, no, I'm a badass. Like I have done this, and this, and I have broke through all of these things, and I have committed to the work, and I've committed to myself, and I've put myself first, and I have been invested mind, body, and spirit in my own growth and in my own path of growth. So I know that I deserve the absolute best. I know that I deserve to be paid for. I know that I deserve the best partner that I could ever imagine attracting in. A lover, a guy that's just like so amazing that it blows my mind. I know that I deserve all of those things, but it wasn't until I got to that point where I was stripped of everything that I thought defined me, that I could not be defined by any of that anymore and go, I'm just a badass because I'm a badass. And it doesn't matter anything else outside of that. I just honor myself. And that right there transformed everything in my life. I mean, it transformed the entire direction, what I was willing to accept and what I was willing to not accept anymore in my life, and just go from that place. And sometimes you have to get to that place in order to really see your worth, in order to really see how much you really are worth and care for yourself. So
yeah, and Jen's insight and transformation has been so palpable and so obvious. And I'm like really so proud of her because she was committed. She was so committed to that process. And there's many of us where that pain is so great and we back away and we do whatever we can to not feel that. And what I've learned too, in a different way, is that you have to get to that point of the pain and still push and still be committed to get through to the other side of it, because there is another side. There is another side of it. But if Jenn had been willing to face that and was like, I'm willing to scrape the bottom, I'm willing to do whatever it takes, I'm here, she did it. She showed up for herself, and in a way that no one else in her life has done. And she did that for herself. So there's a lot of, I want to really acknowledge that, Jenn, and honor that, because I know it's been a huge journey and process for you. There's been times where she's like, I feel like my back is up against the wall and I do not operate well in that. That is not a good space for me to operate in. So instead, she scraped to the bottom. So instead of having her back against the wall, she scraped to the bottom. And that was her method and her way and her journey. And it's really shifted. Like, she's seen it, I've seen it. And all of a sudden, things are showing up for her and supporting her. And that's really, really beautiful.
I think like I had to face my biggest fear, like my biggest fear in life. I had to face it, and I had to be willing to let go of things that defined me. I had to be willing to go, you know what, this can't define me anymore. Like I have to let it go. I was forced to let it go. And in that forcing of letting it go, it was like, oh, I'm still pretty amazing. Still alive. I'm still like, this is like really amazing to see this whole thing play out. Like it was almost like I was in the Twilight Zone watching all of this stuff unfold, and I'm like, wow, I'm doing pretty good. It's like, and then I was able to shift, because I would go into stress, and I would go into like this emotion of like my face would get tight and I would just be so stressed out, like beyond anything I could ever describe, like the level of stress around these certain areas that I struggled in. And it was like, wow, okay, like I'm still alive and I'm still fine. So I don't need to stress anymore. God's going to always provide, and God's going to always show up, and I'm just going to believe that. And when I started to believe that, like miracles started to happen. And now miracles are happening all the time in my life. And it's just like, I mean, just like yesterday, I was flying through Salt Lake City, and I was like, it would be kind of cool to have a 4-hour layover in Salt Lake City, because then I could go to lunch with my sister, and that would be awesome to see her. I am landing, and my Delta app says you have a 3.5-hour delay, which put me at a 4-hour layover in Salt Lake City. So when I landed, and I called or texted her, and she was like, let me see what I can do. So she sent her boyfriend after me, and he came and picked me up at the airport, took me to where she works. We all had lunch together. It was beautiful to see her. It was a gorgeous day in Salt Lake City. We ate outside. It was so amazing. And then he took me back to the airport and I went and got on my plane. And it was just so perfect. And so things like that, we begin to manifest so quickly when we are in this belief space.
Yes. And one thing I do want to add to what you shared, Jen, is that I know you said that you were forced to let go, but you still didn't have to let go.
No,
You still could have chosen not to, but you chose to surrender. And so that is tremendous. You chose to surrender and trust in something greater than yourself and something greater than your fears, and it showed up. So I think the other thing too that we can sometimes get into our heads, it's like, okay, if I do this, so like, okay, if I change energetically, then I'll still get these things that I want. And, so there's still that kind of manipulation in a way, like, okay, I'm going to try to manipulate the way that things are going to turn out. And I'm going to say that I'm going to let go, because if I let go and then I can get these things that I want, it doesn't work that way. Then that's still like trying to manipulate an outcome that is actually much smaller than what's possible for you. And I'm really, really learning that myself. It's so cool to be able to bear witness to yourself and seeing when these little parts of you that you thought had been healed kind of pop back up. And they're like, oh, there she is. Nice. Hi, how you doing? Okay, good to see you. All right. And loving it and allowing it to be there, and then it goes away so much faster than having judgment. Why is this coming up again? Why am I dealing with this? I thought this was taken care of. I thought she was healed and gone. And they're parts of you, right? So it's always going to be those little things. But yeah, miracles do happen, and Jen's been experiencing a lot of them, so I'm super excited for what's to come for you, Jen.
I am too. I'm really excited. Maybe one of our shows can be about that aspect of surrender, because like that could be a whole hour-long show to talk about surrender. Both Jess and I have had to experience complete and total surrender in our journeys, and sometimes it's really hard because surrender is about hanging on to your identity, and it's almost like we're being forced to let go of our identity. And it's a scary thing because the ego gets in the way and says, no, you have to hang on to your identity. This is who you are. And then when we let go of the previous identity, then we really get to see who we truly are and what we're truly made of. When we get to see that, that's when things shift and transform for us faster than we could have ever imagined. And that's where the beauty of life really takes on a new meaning. So anyway, surrender is everything. It's probably one of the hardest things you can do, but like Jess was saying earlier too about just now about energy and manipulation, and I think I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna say I'm gonna do this so I can get what I want. But just like she was saying earlier in this around your energy with men and they can sense it. Well, the universe is no different. The universe can sense where your energy is coming from. Your energy has to come from a very pure source and a very pure place. The universe knows when you've truly surrendered and when you have not. You can say, I can surrender all day long, or I surrender all day long. If you have not truly gone there, and in your heart of hearts, and you have really experienced surrender on that level, then it's not real. It's still manipulation.
Yeah, and it's a process and it takes practice, right? So yeah, it is good to start out saying I surrender, and then you get a little bit deeper, and then you start feeling a little bit more what it is like to let go and what it is to surrender, and then you get a little bit deeper, and then you get to experience the true surrendering. So so it's a process, and we get there, and Jen and I have done it. So, so just to understand that there is another side to it, but it's a practice and what we're committed to changing for ourselves. So I love that. Yeah, I think we should do a whole show about surrender. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely so.
Well, is there anything else that's on your heart, in your mind, Jen?
I think we can wrap this episode of the Sexy Mystics up, and encourage you guys to subscribe to our channel and like and leave a comment. We love to interact with the people who are commenting and have questions or whatever. And please share this video with anyone that you feel will be benefiting from it, you know? So yes.
Cool. I love that. And I do actually have a couple of closing thoughts. One is when you notice that you're needing, where you feel like you're seeking something,
Mm-hmm.
I invite you to have the awareness of that. Like, oh, I'm seeking something from someone else. Where can I pull that from within? So where can I go back in? Where can I, like Jen said, think of a success or a moment where I was really loving myself and honoring myself and going back into that and tapping into that memory, because your body, as much as it stores pain, it also stores joy. It also stores success. It also stores happiness. So it's allowing those moments, those experiences to bubble up and come up and remind us of our true essence and who we are. So so again, like acknowledge, shift, and replace, you know, being aware of something, shifting it into a different statement, like I know that I'm worthy of love, and I love myself, and going back into that self-love and going back into the heart chakra, and even just taking a few moments to take, you know, deep breaths into our heart and saying, you know, thank you for loving me. You know, thank you for this beautiful heart and soul that I have, you know, and bringing it back into ourselves. And the other thing is that I do want us to acknowledge the people that have helped us on our journey with this. So like I mentioned, Judith Onley and Layla Martin, and even Kyle Sees. I just remembered something, that when we have a negative thought, like, oh my gosh, my hair looks so gross today, and I love that. You know, like adding, and I love that. Shifting the energy, and I love that. So all of these beautiful teachers that we've had the experience and pleasure of connecting and working with, we definitely want to share those teachings with you as well. So, and just to mention, you know, we're not doctors, we're not that, but we're committed to paths of healing and transformation, and we're happy to share with you all that we've learned, all that we have. And if you have any questions for us, write us at what was it again? Is it info at thesexymystics.com?
Yeah, I think so.
No, it's not. No, it's thesexymystics at gmail.com. Sorry. thesexymystics@gmail.com. We're still learning. But thank you so much for joining us, and we so look forward to seeing you on our next journey and adventure.
Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, bye.